You know what would make this world a better place? Another Pickleball podcast. Hey there, pickleballers. Welcome back to the PickleFit Podcast, the show that helps you get stronger, more mobile, and injury-proof so you can master the pickleball court. I'm your host, Coach Kevin. I'm a healthy aging expert, a certified personal trainer, and nutrition coach. And each week, we'll dive into simple, actionable tips on strength training, mobility, and nutrition to level up your game and keep you playing at your best, no matter your age or level. So grab your paddle, lace up those sneakers, and let's get PickleFit. Okay, folks, before we dive into today's episode, I've got something special for you. If you're serious about fueling your body for better performance on the pickleball court, you're going to love this. I put together a free guide. It's called Eat Smart, Play Strong, Nutrition Basics for Pickleball Athletes. In this guide, I break down everything you need to know about what to eat, how much protein you really need, and how to build healthy eating habits that will keep you strong, mobile, and injury-free. So whether you're looking to build muscle, lose fat, or just feel more energized during your game, this guide is for you. I'll put a link to the guide in the show notes for this episode, or you can email me at coach@mypicklefit.com. That's coach@mypicklefit.com. Don't miss out on these simple, effective nutrition tips that will help you level up your pickleball game. Okay, enough of that. Let's get on with today's show. All right, guys, welcome back to episode 3 of the PickleFit Podcast. I just got done playing a little bit of pickleball. I've got a few minutes before my next coaching call, so I thought I'd jump on here and talk to you guys about some nutrition basics to fuel your pickleball play. Let's start here. There is so much information swirling around, and most of it conflicting, frankly, around what we should eat. There's low carb, high carb, low fat, high fat, vegan, carnivore, intermittent fasting, just all this information out there, and that can leave some of us kind of wondering, well, what should I eat? Now, for those of you maybe that have struggled with body composition, so for most of us that's going to be, hey, we're either too frail and we'd like to have some more muscle, or we're overly fat, we'd like to lose some of this fat. I'm going to talk about some basic nutrition strategies that will help improve your body composition, will help improve your health, will help improve your longevity, and yes, of course, all of that being said, all the nutrition strategies we're going to talk about here today will absolutely transfer to making you a better pickleball player. So I want to back up for just a minute and talk about why we eat. Now, the obvious answer is we eat for sustenance. We will die if we don't eat, right? But we eat for all sorts of reasons. We eat because we're happy. We eat because we're sad, anxious, and depressed. We celebrate with food. We connect with our loved ones over food. We eat to lose weight. We eat to build muscle. We eat for a lot of different reasons. And as pickleball athletes, we should be thinking about eating for athletic performance. But here's the deal. Again, like I said, there's so much conflicting information swirling around in the interwebs and on social media. It's much easier said than done, right? How should you eat for athletic performance? So as pickleballers looking to level up our game, what we really need is a set of guidelines that'll serve us, whether we're looking to lose fat, build muscle, or just overall health. And I would like to introduce to you the PickleFit Nutrition Pyramid. This is a pyramid I use in my other business. So those of you who don't know, I am a fitness entrepreneur. I own a company called The Silver Edge, where I work with people, men and women over 50, to help them get strong, mobile, vital. It has nothing to do with pickleball, just in general, healthy, strong, lose weight, all that fun stuff. And I came up with this nutrition pyramid for that business, but it absolutely applies here for those of us looking to look at nutrition as a way to fuel performance. So if you think about a pyramid, now those of you watching this on YouTube, you're going to see the graphic here. Those of you in podcast land, stick with me here. We're going to think of this pyramid as, of course, a pyramid, and we're going to cut it into fourths. So we're going to have the bottom fourth, and then a second tier, and then a third tier, and then that fourth tier is going to be that tiny little triangle tip at the top. So hopefully you're with me there. We have this foundation, then we have the next layer, then we have the next layer, and then we have that tiny triangle up at top. So that's going to be our PickleFit Nutrition Pyramid. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the base of that. I'm going to give you 4 foundational truths that we can use to form a framework for fueling our bodies. I'm going to start with the most important. And the most important fundamental thing when it comes to nutrition is what we eat. So I'll just go ahead and tell you in order of importance. The most important thing we can do nutritionally is change what we eat. Next up is how we eat. So we're moving north here on our pyramid. We're going to the next smaller chunk. And that's how we eat. Then we're going to move up to the next piece of our pyramid. That's how much we eat, which is where most of us usually start when we think about nutrition, right? We're going on a diet, or if we're trying to add some muscle, maybe we're trying to add calories, but how much we eat. And then the least important part of our nutritional guidelines here are going to be when we eat. So let's start at that base. The base is what you eat, and it's the most important thing. So the number one thing you can do to level up your health, to level up your body composition, and certainly to level up your pickleball play is to choose real foods. So eat real foods. In other words, as much as possible, you want to eliminate or greatly reduce highly processed foods, these ultra processed foods. And here's why. Studies show that we tend to overeat about 500 calories per day when we eat primarily processed foods versus real whole foods. Now, note that the average American at this point in time, our diet is made up of over 70% processed foods. So most of us are getting most of our food from highly processed food. And if you think about that, that's the average. That means there's a whole bunch of you out there that are eating way more than 70% of your diet from processed foods. So when I say processed foods, think of anything that comes in a package. Real whole foods are things with one ingredient. It's meat, it's dairy, it's eggs, it's vegetables, it's fruit, it's your starches, think rice and potatoes, things of that nature. So the number one thing you can do to level up your health is to eat as much as possible and as much as practical. I'm not saying eliminate all processed foods, but as much as practical, start swapping out some of those processed foods for real, healthy, whole foods. And if you think about it, these highly engineered, highly processed foods are scientifically engineered by PhD chemists to cause us to overeat. They are hyper palatable. And then we have these giant mega corporations that are spending billions of dollars advertising these products to us, telling us how delicious they are, how convenient they are. And look, they're delicious and they're convenient. Fair point. However, they are detracting from your health. These foods are typically very nutrient scarce and very calorically dense. That's the opposite of what we want. We want some nutrient density bang for our buck and our calories. And when we eat primarily processed foods, that just ain't happening. This is affecting your pickleball play. Plain and simple, no getting around it. Inconvenient truth time, tough truth time. If you're eating primarily processed foods, my recommendation is just start small and start trying to add on that and start building the practice of swapping out some of these processed foods for real whole foods. All right, so staying there at the base of our pyramid, so we're here on what we eat, the foods that we choose. Number one thing you can do is plain and simple, choose real whole foods, start to eliminate or greatly reduce some of those ultra processed foods. The number two thing you can do is prioritize healthy protein. So most of us in our age demographic, and I'm talking to you folks out there that are 50, 60, and 70 years old, most of us are drastically under eating protein. Look, in my other coaching practice, all we coach are people primarily in their 50s and 60s. And I can tell you this, in the hundreds of clients that have come through our program, close to 1,000 probably by now, I can count maybe on one hand, maybe two hands, the number of clients that have come in that are eating enough protein. Almost all of us are dramatically under eating protein. And this is especially true for those of you out there that are pickleball athletes. So a good target to aim for is 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal body weight every day. So let's take a couple examples. Let's say you're a woman and you weigh 160 pounds, but you wish you weighed 130 pounds. Your target would be 130 grams of protein every day. Let's take another example on the other side. Let's say you're a dude, you weigh 155 pounds, but you're kind of scrawny. You wish you weighed 170 pounds. Your target is 170 grams of protein a day. And that catches a lot of people off guard. That's a lot of protein. But as a coach, I hear people time and time again say, yeah, I eat high protein. And I say, oh, okay, well, tell me what that looks like. What's a typical day of eating? Well, I start out the day and I eat 2 eggs and a piece of toast. And I say, okay, well, there's 12 grams, maybe generously, we'll say there's 15 grams of protein. Go ahead. Oh, yeah, well, for lunch, I'll have a turkey sandwich. And okay, so maybe there's another perhaps 15 grams. Probably not, but let's just be generous and say there's another 15. We're at 30. We'll just say we're at 40 grams on the day right now. Oh, yeah, and then at dinner, I'll have chicken, fish, steak, and a starch and a potato. Oh, okay, well, that's probably getting 30 plus grams there. And if you think about this, for a guy trying to hit 170 grams of protein, he's not even halfway there with that diet we just talked about. So a lot of people they misjudge their protein intake. Now, you may be thinking, well, why high protein? What's the big deal there? And here's why high protein is critical for health and for building and maintaining a lean, strong, healthy body. Protein is the building block for lean muscle. And as we age, it takes a larger and larger dose of protein to activate muscle protein synthesis. That sounds like a big fancy word, but really what it means is taking those amino acids, because protein, your body breaks those down into amino acids. Those are your building blocks for lean muscle. So your body's breaking down this protein, converting it into muscle, but your body's ability to sense that protein, you need a bigger and bigger dose as you start to age. So those of us over 50s, those of us in our 60s or even 70s really need to be focused on getting that protein into our bodies. Also, protein is the most satiating of your macronutrients. Your macronutrients are your proteins, your fats, and your carbohydrates. And you've probably experienced this. Smash a whole bunch of carbs, you're hungry an hour later. You eat 50 grams of protein, you ain't hungry an hour later. You just are not. Protein is just very, very satiating, which means you stay full longer after eating it, so it helps to control appetite in that way and keeps us from overeating. Now, some really good sources for protein are things like lean cuts of beef, pork, chicken, fish and seafood, eggs, of course. Now, an egg has 6 grams of protein, but it is nature's superfood, so definitely eat your eggs. And then in the non-meat variety, we'll go with cottage cheese is a really good source of protein, as is Greek yogurt. Both of those are great, so if you tolerate dairy, fantastic options there. And for my vegetarian friends out there and vegans or plant-based folks, your tofu, your edamame, some good sources of protein there. Now, before we wrap up talking about protein, I will say this is an area where I really like supplementation, especially if you're currently under eating protein. It's going to be really difficult, somebody eating 60 grams of protein today, to eat 120 grams of protein tomorrow. In fact, I would not recommend that. I'd recommend doing a week of eating 80 to 100 and then bump that up another to 120 to 140, and then maybe a week later jump up to the 140, 150, whatever, right? But kind of stair step your way. And I'm a big fan of protein powder supplementation. Now, the best bang for your buck is going to be 100% hands down, is going to be whey protein. So for those of you that tolerate dairy, whey protein is far and away the best bang for your protein buck. But there are other options out there. My next runner up from whey protein would be, believe it or not, it sounds gross, but it's not. It's bone broth protein powder. So if you're somebody that maybe has a problem with dairy and with whey, you might want to try one of the bone broth powders out there. I really, really like the Paleo Valley bone broth protein powders. They actually make a vanilla and a chocolate. Sounds weird. They're both delicious. Both delicious. My wife, who's very, very picky, absolutely, that's the only protein powder she'll drink. She drinks that vanilla Paleo Valley protein powder, so you can check them out. Now, if you're plant-based and you're saying, hey, that's not for me, then your third option, and also note the least bang for your buck when it comes to full amino acid profile is going to be some sort of plant-based protein powder. But certainly if you are a plant-based athlete, you absolutely should be supplementing with some good quality plant-based protein powders. So there you go. That is the base of our nutrition pyramid. If you don't do anything else, just do those two things, I think you will be light years ahead of where you are right now. Okay, so let's move up the stack here in our nutrition pyramid. Our base is what we eat. The next piece of the puzzle here is how we eat. Now, this one catches a lot of people by surprise. You're like, okay, I'm with you, Kev, on the what I should eat, and that's more important than how much I eat. Maybe, kind of with you there, kind of tracking. What in the world do you mean by how you eat? So by this, I mean your eating behaviors. A lot of us have lost the art of eating mindfully and eating intentionally. And by a lot of us, I mean me. Talking to myself here as well, really guilty of this. This is something I really had to work hard on. I've got a couple of nutrition certifications. My first one came from a company called Precision Nutrition, and they pound this. In fact, this is the basis of their nutrition coaching certification, is basically human behavior and changing behavior around eating habits, as opposed to, more athletic performance or fueling for other initiatives. They're mostly a weight loss company or certification, but they really opened my eyes to this whole eating behavior and how we eat. So tell me if this sounds familiar. This is the way, and I still catch myself eating this way. I'm at my desk, I'm wolfing while I'm working. I'm in the car, I'm wolfing some food on the go. I'm standing at my desk eating. I'm standing over the counter eating. I'm gobbling some food as fast as I can so I can get on to the next thing. That is the opposite of mindful, intentional eating. Now compare that to the way I try mostly to eat now. I only eat when I'm seated, not in front of my computer either, at the table, even when I'm by myself. I work at home, my wife works out of the house, I'm by myself here, empty nester. I sit down at my kitchen table and I eat my meals. I eat them slowly. I eat them deliberately. I take my time. I try to imagine myself like a sommelier or a food critic or a food snob. I want to appreciate the smell, the aroma of my food, the taste of my food, the texture of my food. I'm trying to chew my food mindfully. Personally in the practice, I bless everything before I eat it. So I'm saying a prayer of thanks. And if you think about it, it's kind of hard to do that over a bag of Skittles while you're driving in the car. You're probably not giving thanks for that food to nourish your body and strengthen you. It doesn't make much sense. But when I sit down with real whole food, I give thanks for that food that I'm getting ready to eat, that it might nourish my body, it might strengthen me. And I take my time, I eat slowly, deliberately, maybe put my fork down in between bites because I have a habit of, I'm just kind of speeding up. I'm a busy dude, right? I got a podcast things to do. I've got a couple of different businesses I'm trying to run. But I'm still taking that time to eat slowly, to eat intentionally, to eat deliberately. And I'll give you one more thing, and I know I'm not going to win any fans on this one. But the other thing I want you to do, eat your meals slowly, mindfully, sitting down in your kitchen, in your dining room, wherever you eat meals, not at your desk, not in your car. And I want you to put away the electronic devices. Now, if you're with other people, that's fantastic. Definitely interact and engage with those people, but try and be mindful of the food and the experience. Again, if you're eating with other people, lean into that and make that a social time by all means. But I want you to, if you're somebody like me who just has this tendency to live life fast, do things quickly, especially something like food, I'll just speed through it. I want you to slow down, take your time, be intentional, give thanks for the food. If you're not a prayer man or woman, then just give a moment of gratitude for the food you're getting ready to eat. Get rid of the electronic devices. You don't need your phone or your TV on for 15 or 20 minutes, however long it takes you to eat. So that is our second tier in our nutrition pyramid. Again, we're moving up the stack. We have the most important thing you can do right now to change the way you eat for optimal health, for optimal performance on the court is going to be what you eat. The next most important and impactful thing you can do is change how you eat. All right, we are moving up the next level on our nutrition pyramid. So remember we said that the base is the most important. That's what we eat. The next most important after that is going to be how we eat, because we're going to be mindful and intentional in our eating. Next, we're going to how much we eat. And this catches a lot of people by surprise because look, as a culture, we live in a diet culture and it's all about the diet. It's all about cutting those calories. Let's burn that fat. Let's go, right? And this is what most people consider their number one priority when you start talking to them about nutrition. And certainly, don't get me wrong, it is a critical piece of the puzzle. I just feel like when we go straight to calories without paying attention to what we're eating and how we're eating, we're just missing the mark quite a bit, especially for those of us that are masters athletes or older athletes on the pickleball court here. But here's the deal. When we are intentional about what we eat and how we eat, very often you'll find that how much you eat kind of falls in line and takes care of itself. Like I said, if you're eating a high protein diet, you're probably eating fewer calories. If you're slowing down and eating intentionally, you're probably eating fewer calories. If you're avoiding highly processed food, you're probably eating fewer calories. I'll also say this, I didn't mention this in the second tier in how we eat, but when you're scarfing your food, you don't give your body the biological chance to signal satiety. So you have these two hormones, you may have heard of them, that's ghrelin and leptin. These are your hunger and satiety hormones. And when we gulp our food down or wolf our food down, we actually overrun that signal. We can eat faster than our bodies can perceive and produce that hormone that goes to the brain and says, hey, we're full. No, we're eating. So I've already overeaten by the time that signal is cueing. So again, when we practice what we eat, how we eat, a lot of times the calories kind of take care of themselves. But when it comes to calories, calories do matter. And we are going to deep dive on this topic in future episodes. But for now, just understand that when we think about how much we should eat, the answer is we should eat enough to fuel athletic performance, but not so much that we store excess fat. And look, I know that's easier said than done, and there's not an easy pat answer since that's a little bit different for everybody. And it really is going to depend on your metabolism and your metabolic health and where you are right now. And speaking of metabolism, here's a paradoxical fact. Some of y'all are overweight and undereating. Let me say that again, because some of you might be, wait, I think I misheard you. Some of you are 100% undereating and you're overweight. And now we are definitely going to do a whole episode on this, on your metabolism and fat loss and muscle building. But for now, just know that every time you go on a diet, every time you eat low calorie or every time you skip breakfast, Your metabolism perceives this as food scarcity, and it scrambles to rearrange hormones to actually hang on to that precious fat. You have evolved, your metabolism's job is only to keep you alive. And your metabolism doesn't understand when you slash calories that you're just going on a diet to burn some of that pesky belly fat. It just perceives that as, oh crap, we got food scarcity here. Let's rearrange some things. That's why diets stop working. You've probably noticed this in your life if you're somebody who's dieted quite a bit. I mean, a lot of our clients come into our practice and they've lost and gained the same 20, 30, 40 pounds their entire adult lives. Because what happens? They go on a diet, the diet works until it stops working. And then they kind of fall, well, what the hell? Why am I going to be on this horrible diet if I'm not going to lose any weight? And they go back to the way they were eating before. You know exactly what happens there, right? The weight regain comes slowly back on, and maybe this time with a few extra bonus pounds to boot. But I'm going to leave the whole slow metabolism, broken metabolism, and calorie deficit for another deep dive episode. But I just want to emphasize that focusing on what you eat and how you eat is the biggest bang for your buck when it comes to building and maintaining a lean, strong, healthy, capable body that will serve you on the pickleball court. So we're going to talk a lot about diets. We're going to talk about reverse diets, which that may be a new term for some of you. We're certainly going to talk about a lot about the metabolism's role in all of this in future episodes. But for now, we're going to leave it there. Just know that I've got what you eat is most important, how you eat next. The amount of food you eat is important, but it's not the most important thing. And then finally, we move up to the tip of the triangle. And I don't care what your intermittent fasting zealot friends tell you, when you eat is the least important part of body composition, health, and certainly for athletic performance. Look, you're a pickleball athlete. You are an athlete of aging. You are a master's athlete. However you identify, you're an athlete. You need to fuel like an athlete. Think about world-class athletes. I can tell you what they don't do. They don't skip meals. They don't eat in a 6-hour window or anything ridiculous like that. They fuel themselves for athletic performance. You can probably tell from my tone here, I am not a fan of intermittent fasting for any reason, but I'm particularly not a fan of intermittent fasting for weight loss. And the older somebody is, the less and less I'm a fan of it for any reason at all. And now some of you are out there thinking, well, wait, I lost a bunch of weight doing intermittent fasting, or my friend at work lost 40 pounds doing intermittent fasting. Know that if you or somebody you know claims to, or has actually legitimately lost weight intermittent fasting, it has nothing to do with eating in the 8-hour window. It has everything to do with their behavior changing and them eating fewer calories, full stop. We have tons of really good science to back this up. You want to see the studies, hit me up. I'll be glad to share them with you. But just know that intermittent fasting, ineffective for weight loss. Basically what happens is for people who have temporary success, typically with intermittent fasting and weight loss, is they're just eating less calories because they're eating in a smaller window. But we already know we want to fuel our bodies for ultimate performance, and eating regularly throughout the day is the best way to do that. So what I'm going to encourage you to do, as opposed to worrying about when you eat, I'm a big fan for those of you that have appetite in the morning. And side note, if you don't have an appetite in the morning, that's a metabolic problem that we're going to address later. But I really like getting up in the morning and starting every morning with a high protein breakfast. Remember, we're talking about eating a gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. And in order to do that, you're going to have to get ahead of the game. You can't just wake up and eat a bowl of Wheaties or a bowl of Cheerios, which is just pure carb, and expect to hit that protein goal for the day. So I'm a big fan of waking up, getting in that high protein breakfast. I love eating a big breakfast. I eat a second smaller breakfast. I eat lunch. I have an afternoon snack. I have dinner. Now, in terms of going back to the intermittent fasting and this idea of intermittent fasting, know that nature's already built that into your biology, and it's called sleep. We are, all of us, intermittent fasting during sleep. Nobody is eating while they sleep. And here's a practice that I use with my clients. Again, going back to kind of how we eat, and I suppose it ties in with when we eat. But I would like you, when it comes to this tip of the pyramid, this when you eat, to use this practice. Try to get in the habit of not eating or drinking after dinner. And then don't eat until breakfast. Sounds simple, right? But most of us, that'll give us 10 to 12 hours of quote unquote intermittent fasting. And that does give your digestive system a nice break, gives you a lot of the benefits that people are talking about with eating in a smaller eating window. So that's what I like to do. Again, it goes back to the behavioral side of things, because some of y'all are snacking after dinner, and you're not eating kale and you're not eating healthy veggie smoothies. You're grabbing candy and popcorn and chips and And let's face it, some of y'all are drinking beer, having wine, maybe a cocktail or two after dinner. But if we can say dinner is our cutoff, we close our feeding window, so to speak, and then we don't eat again until our breakfast the next morning. That's a really good way to fall into a really healthy pattern when it comes to your eating timing. All right, there you go. This was just meant to be a very high-level overview, give you some food for thought. Yes, pun intended, people. I hope you found this helpful, and I'd encourage you to start with the foundation of your nutrition pyramid and start seeing where you can swap out some processed foods for real whole foods and start being intentional about prioritizing healthy protein into your daily eating habits. And I would also encourage you to start being intentional and mindful while you eat. Now, if you found this information helpful, I would ask that you please share this episode with a friend. Please like this episode and subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. I want to thank you so much for spending your time with me today. And until next time, stay strong. All right, folks, that's a wrap for today's episode of the PickleFit Podcast. I hope you're feeling fired up to hit the court and stronger and smarter. If you've enjoyed the show, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow pickleballers. Let's grow this community of fit, fearless, and injury-free players. Until next time, stay strong, stay mobile, and keep crushing it out there. I'll see you on the court.